So, this presentation is meant to dive into two powerful trends in sustainable living, solar energy and electric vehicles. Both offer benefits and also come with trade-offs. This session is again meant to be informational and educational. We'll look at how solar and EVs fit into different lifestyles, how to evaluate a financial picture, including incentives and long-term savings, and crucially, how to research smartly and avoid common scams. It's important to go into this with eyes wide open, as policy changes can impact expected returns and the situations we'll discuss. I have no formal education around solar or EVs. However, I am a strong proponent for sustainable living. Yes, and have a full electric house powered by solar. I've been driving a battery-powered vehicle for more than a decade, and we do actively camp off-grid with solar in the desert. The most common question I get is answered with the word yes. You can stay cool in a tent in 90-degree weather by running an air conditioner off your solar, as well as getting cool water from your fridge freezer, also run off by your solar. So with us again today is Janice and Dahlia. They'll be supporting the chat if you have any questions that they can answer. So with the rising costs of fuel and energy, these technologies offer more financial control, potential savings, and a reduced carbon footprint. The reasons your participant might be drawn to adopting these tools will be driven by their values, both personally and financially. However, we are finding that many of the households are drawn to solar and EVs for mainly environmental reasons, but economic factors are also increasing. Studies find that approximately 72% of Gen Z state that they have proactively altered their behavior to reduce their environmental impact. And more increasingly, slightly more than half of them stated that they would be willing to pay 10% more for a sustainable product. As mentors, you will guide their conversations and help balance the environmental rewards with financial goals as they consider these purchases. Any way you look at it, these are high-ticket priced items. With that comes upfront costs. These products do not magically free up thousands of extra dollars in your wallet overnight. These should be considered long-term investments that have the potential to be less expensive than their conventional counterparts. There are several factors that go into the exact price of these tools. It's our intention to create an outline of some of the average national costs associated. Let's start with solar, which has a significant initial investment that takes a long time to recoup. The total capacity for a solar system to produce energy will be capped by the size of the array possible, both in space and cost. A cost savings to help with the upfront price can be tax credits. The Federal Residential Clean Energy Credit has been written to provide 30% credit for systems installed through 2032. However, the most recent budget reconciliation bill has passed to terminate the credit by the end of 2025. The final vote on this credit's expiration will not be known until about July or August of this year, as the Senate conducts their final vote. Our resources will update to reflect any changes that may occur. Participants can also look into state and local tax credits and rebates. State participation and amounts will vary, but are easily researched online. When considering tax credits, if a system is leased, the company leasing the system has the right to that credit and the physical asset, not the participant. Energy bills can see reduction with an additional smart electricity usage and net metering. The programs available to participants will vary by utility company and should be researched in advance. It's important to remember that there could be additional upfront costs to install a system not included in the purchase price. These are things like electric panel upgrades, roof repairs, and maybe even tree trimming. New EVs tend to be more expensive on average than conventional counterparts. However, used EVs are trending up to about the average price of their used counterparts as well. EVs tend to have a lower overall lifetime cost, as there are fewer areas for cost savings that are often overlooked. Many people don't consider the maintenance costs for vehicles when they are looking to purchase a new or used vehicle. They typically focus on the overall cost of the vehicle, monthly payments, and maybe fuel efficiency. EVs have saved money over time by eliminating the need for oil and fluid changes, decreasing the cost of fuel, and reducing repair costs for parts due to there being fewer parts and fewer moving pieces within those parts that do exist. EVs might cost more in other areas as they carry a more expensive insurance premium typically due to higher replacement costs during accidents, more complex and specialized repairs, and the potential for higher claim costs overall. While gas or diesel fuel costs are eliminated with EVs, there is still a cost to refuel through charging. The most cost-effective will be to charge at home. While you can simply plug an EV into a regular 110 or 120 volt wall outlet, it takes a long time to charge with this method. A dedicated 240 volt charger is recommended for regular driving long distances. In some areas, rebates for home charging stations are available. If participants do not have home charging station or ability to install one, especially for those in apartments and multifamily complexes, public charging stations would need to be utilized. The type of charger and utility costs of public stations will vary. Time to drive to the station and stay in the vehicle during recharge time also needs to be considered. The federal tax credits for EVs are also subject to the final vote by Senate discussed earlier. If approved, the credit for new vehicles would phase out by 2026 and be unavailable at the end of 2025. It would be eliminated completely for used vehicles at the end of 2025. If tax credits persist, it's important to understand when they apply. Not all EVs qualify, and auto dealers are sometimes unaware of the details or lack transparency. The same potential legislation change would add an additional $250 annual fee imposed by the Federal Highway Administration. Similar fees are already imposed by some states for at more affordable rates, and they're paid during the registration process. These fees are meant to offset the gas taxes paid by conventional vehicles. And focusing on the financial aspect of both solar and EVs, lifestyle considerations also need to be factored in, as they do have financial impact. They are often less thought about during the decision-making process. To maximize the benefit for both tools, changes to lifestyle often need to be implemented, sometimes small and sometimes significant. You're already experienced in working through habit-changing conversations with finances with your households. Now, you can extend that skill to helping them think about their daily habits, the potential impact on these tools, and if they are willing to make those changes for the desired outcomes. For solar, questions and topics to start these conversations might include, is their home well suited for solar panels, including roof space, orientation, and facing direction? How much electricity do they use during a day or month on average? And what is the maximum they can afford to produce with a system? What number of household appliances are electric? If there are non-electric appliances, those utility bills will not reduce. Do they use most of their energy during the day or in the evening and at night? And does their utility company charge differently for peak versus off-peak usage hours, or have a net buyback program? These questions will help them understand if they need to adjust their energy consumption times, such as running appliances and climate controls during the day, or if additional costs for battery storage might be more appropriate. The number and type of solar panels that can be afforded and fit in combination with seasonal conditions and orientation will affect how much power they can produce throughout the year max. You can share a primer on these solar systems that include the education and resources on these factors found in our resource library. So for electric vehicles, some conversation starters might include, what is their average commute distance? Do they drive long distance regularly or mostly stay local? Can they charge their cars at home or work, or do they require special visits outside their normal commute? Is public charging accessible for distances they're just outside their local commute? How these questions are answered will shape whether an EV is a good fit or just another source of frustration in their finances. The resource library has a good educational primer on EVs to share as well. This is a chart that shows a brief comparison of the cost considerations between houses with solar and without solar. It's incredibly difficult to get a highly accurate number due to the various factors involved in calculations. Beyond lifestyle, some of the biggest factors might include that buyback or net metering program that we talked about. These programs, if they're accessible, can allow to build credit or reduce the cost of a monthly bill. The time of use is also important, often referred to as peak or off-peak hours. It changes the cost of electricity based on the hour of the day that it is consumed. And the weather. Obviously, dark, stormy days, the night, affect your energy production, as well as sunny days with extreme heat. On average, the long-term nature of breaking even with a typically sized solar system on an average home with an average electricity consumption suits those who intend on being outfitted in their home for an extended period of time. Third Decade recommends homebuyers plan to stay in their home at least 5 years from the initial purchase date. Adding solar would increase that recommended time to at least 12 years, depending on the cost of the array. Something not often thought about is the resale of the home. Adding solar to a home could be considered a value-add improvement if the overall cost of the system is less than 30% of the home's value. A 2025 study by Solar Review found that homes with solar panels sold for about 6.9% more than homes without solar. Again, if the solar panel system is leased, this could create complications in the sale of the home. And this is an incredibly simple slide illustrating the possible differences between EV and gas combustible engines. We have excluded hybrids and diesel vehicles to keep the complexity to a minimum. Again, there are many variables that can be drastically change these numbers. These are just some food for thought. That the make and the model of the vehicle, weather in the area, driving style, distance, and even the state of residency has an impact on expenses and incentives. Availability of chargers, the price of public charging, insurance premiums, and registration fees are different in all states. Electric vehicles are less expensive in some areas and more expensive in others. Overall, the long-term cost of an EV has the potential to be less rather, EVs are less than the conventional vehicle. While both of these vehicles have a larger upfront cost, it can take years to break even, but the savings do add up over time. As much as I love a mythical story, everyone knows this, we need to remember that these technologies are not magic bullets. Each product has its own physical limitations, significant upfront price tag, and long-term financial implications. Understanding the trade-offs before jumping in will help manage expectations and the reality of use. These are new fields, new technologies, new tools for many people. It's not enough to simply go off the word of the company or the person making the sale, as they might not be fully transparent or they simply don't know. This is the truth for both the utility of the tool and the overall cost. Lack of knowledge prevents the understanding what system or vehicle might be a right fit for them and how to maximize that utility for finance, lifestyle, and values. We would recommend, again, providing the solar and EV resources for review to start their education. It's highly recommended that they go beyond these resources, seeking experts in industry and references of authority. If they do venture on the side of purchase, there are various ways to pay for and even reduce the cost of these tools. One we've already mentioned is tax credits, if they continue to be available federally. It's important to ensure that the participant understands the difference between tax credit and tax deduction. The total tax liability may or may not make them eligible for the full credit, which may increase their overall cost that they had anticipated. For solar, power purchase agreements or buyback programs are the long-term contracts between an electricity generator and the customer. In this contract, the buyer agrees to purchase excess electricity generated by the customer at a pre-negotiated price for an extended amount of time. These credits can be used to offset future electricity bills or occasionally converted to cash. These contracts are subject to state and utility availability and regulations. Each utility company will have their own rules governing whether it will buy back electricity, the amount it will take, and the price it will pay. The more the participant can pay in cash, obviously the better, as with all large ticket purchases. If a loan is anticipated, it is wise to shop for the best rates. This might be another opportunity to educate them on the importance of their credit score and responsible lending. They might also need to understand how the cost of the system will increase due to the addition of the instant interest from financing. Caution should be exercised when using a HELOC. While it has the potential to lower the interest rates and have tax advantages, it also has the increase to overall cost more over time to pay it down and interest costs. The potential for losing the home does exist with this method. I can almost talk today, guys. The Federal Housing Administration created the FHA 203K loan to help homeowners pay for a house and its renovations using funds in one loan package for strategic renovations for an existing home. This can be a slow process and often for existing renovations is not the best choice. Leasing can seem like an attractive option as it offers a fixed monthly payment and no upfront costs. As with any lease, there is the asset not owned at the end of the term. Leasing transfers the participant's rights of the tax credit or rebate to the seller as they are the owner of the property. If a leased system is placed on an owned property, selling the property becomes more complicated with the transfer of ownership, physical migration of the panels to a new home, or early lease termination fees. Taking advantage of the tax incentives as they exist and the paying cash are also highly desirable for an electric vehicle. As the federal tax credit exists, eligibility hinges on the make of the vehicle. Only approved clean source vehicles assembled in North America with a max MSRP of $55,000 for cars and $80,000 for trucks, SUVs, and vans qualify for this credit. Of the approximate 114 EV models currently available, only about 22 meet the federal tax credit qualifiers. Home charging station purchases and installation rebates are also available in some states. In addition to conventional loans, some banks and credit unions offer green loans. These offer lower interest rates and extended repayment terms to help reduce the monthly payment. As with all loans, exploring financing options is key before committing. The alternative fuel industry is not free from scams and predators. It can be helpful to for the participant to recognize the common signs of scams in order to avoid them. Listed here are some red flags most commonly associated. Even when best practices for avoiding scams are implemented, bad business behaviors can still be employed. Having referrals from known sources, checking reviews, confirming business licensing and the age of the business, and avoiding commission-driven sales are highly recommended consumer practices. In addition to the Federal Trade Commission, the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Better Business Bureau, BBB, and similar regulatory and advocacy organizations, there is a potential to still have a negative experience. In that effect, the Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit that focuses on solar rights and consumer protection. They can help navigate that negative experiences. They're also a really good resource for education and other referrals. It is best that large purchases are well thought out and researched, right? Encourage your participants to shop around for offers, both of the seller and the lender. Help them ensure that the math being done incorporates all costs. It's easy to focus on equipment cost or the highest savings of any given month. Be sure the calculations include supplemental costs and usage impacts. New vehicles and solar components often come with a manufacturer warranty. When dealing with extended warranties, it's crucial to carefully review the terms and conditions to understand the scope of coverage. It's not uncommon for sellers to attempt to add a warranty with worst-case scenarios that may be rare. Also, understanding the age of the business will help gain insight into the validity of the warranties being offered. If a business is new, we are less likely to put weight in their existence 20 years from now for warranty calls. When it comes to solar panels, it's also a good idea to check the homeowner's insurance coverage. Most of them will be automatically included. However, an additional rider can be purchased, generally inexpensively. In conclusion, when your participant is considering these products, it's important to match their choice with their lifestyle, values, and financial goals. Doing careful research and choosing upstanding sales and finance partners are paramount. Done right, these are powerful tools for saving money and protecting the planet. Happy day. So that's pretty much the end of our presentation. We are switching over to Rostify soon, so you get a sneak peek of what it's going to look like. Had it been up and running as we had intended prior to this event, you would have registered for the event on a page that looks like this. Then you would have been able to record your activities where that little red circle is with a form that comes up and says, what day did you watch it live, maybe recorded, and how long did it take you to watch that? It'll also incorporate the feedback form that we typically ask you to grab with your QR code screenshot and fill that out. So that's also incorporated there as well. We're very excited about the new volunteer platform coming out and it should be released here in the next couple of weeks. So yay. With that, we conclude. So yay.